Hello and welcome to Epiphytic Cacti. I'm actually just taking some preemptive footage here. The reason why is because I really enjoy buds that form like this. We'll see when it opens, but this hybrid is supposed to be Chardonnay Twist. You can see that little guy peeking out there. Move this aside. There we go. When they tend to kind of open, they have a real strong tendency to look like a rose. And it's something that's really, really pretty. And I just think it's really cool. This guy will probably open tonight. I also think that this one is particularly funny because I've seen them do this before, but I also think it's really funny because this one's got like its perfect little opening there and you can see its stigma just like hanging out. It's so ready to bloom. This little guy has been kind of trying to open for like 2 days now. It's just a really perfect kind of bud. But this is just my special footage just to show you the beauty that buds can actually have. Because sometimes, I don't think that people like ever really know that sometimes I'm actually just obsessed with the bud. There are some Epiphyllum hybrids that I have that I just think their bud is so beautiful. I might not even think that much of their flower, but I really truly enjoy their buds. So yeah, but there we go. There is Chardonnay Twist in bud. And this is not a really great example of this flower simply because, as you can see, this plant is not very big. It's a 2-year-old plant, and it is the first time that this plant will have ever bloomed. The plant was grown from one cutting. It started 2 years ago, and you can see like most of this growth is actually just all off of that one cutting. And it's really, really cool because the hybrid grows really, really well. However, I've said this before in other videos, but sometimes a phenomena can happen that when it has its very first bloom, it can actually bloom in a way that it doesn't even look like the correct hybrid. And in this case, it does actually look like the correct hybrid to me, but it is missing petals. So it just didn't have enough energy to bloom with as many petals as it should have. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a hybrid spotlight on this, but cautiously, I think tentatively with the notion that I won't truly know and truly be able to confirm the identity of this particular flower or this particular plant until next year. I have no reason to doubt that it's not Chardonnay Twist though. The resource that I got this from, I have yet to receive any mislabeled hybrid from. So I'm actually fairly positive it is Chardonnay Twist. According to the Epiphyllum Society of America, Chardonnay Twist was registered in 2006. The hybridizer was Darryl Miyamoto. The description reads, inner petals white to pale yellow with bright yellow edges, outer petals darker yellow, double cup and saucer form, 3 and 4 angled basket growth. The flower size is medium. The seed parent or mother was Lady Ruffles, and the pollen parent or father was Tropical Incense. For I would definitely say that this is a fast-growing hybrid. It's not really a slow-growing hybrid. I think that can be somewhat deceiving just because this plant was really and truly grown from one cutting. And if I remember correctly, there was something that happened to this plant when it was young that made me believe that I was actually going to lose it. I think that what happened was the cutting had rooted, and then it probably started to rot. And then I actually needed to re-root the cutting. So I think that's kind of what happened to this. And one of the reasons why I slightly remember this is because you can see that the original cutting, let me zoom in. You can see that the original cutting is laying somewhat sideways. And I have a very strong tendency to do that with cuttings when I have slight issues with them rotting and stuff. And some of the reason why I do that is to give them several extra rooting points. And you can see, it's got like all this nice new growth. It's got very pretty branches. I think that it is really kind of funny how it exploded with growth eventually and all just coming out of that one cutting. So that's kind of a funny thing. You can see it's got this really gorgeous sort of like bell shape. And you can see these back petals. They are a very dark gold. I don't know that I would call that orange. It may look orange, but I would actually still say that's yellow, almost like a dark yellow or a dirty yellow. And then when you get into this row, it becomes a very intense yellow. And here you can actually see kind of that lighter mid-stripe. I've seen a lot of variation in the color of this flower where it can go like from a very intense yellow to more of a yellow mixed with white. And that's really common, I think, for yellow hybrids. especially in days of old, like slightly older yellow hybrids. I think that there's always kind of the oddity that it was so difficult for them to even initially get a solid yellow hybrid. So there was always a little bit of white that would sometimes get mixed in there, and it would be so variable with temperature and environment to, you know, to have them truly kick out like a pure yellow flower. So it's not surprising that it's, you know, tinged with white. If you're familiar with this flower, you will see that it is essentially missing an entire row of petals. So it should have probably a whole entire other row of petals here. The shape of the petals and everything to me is correct. It's just missing petals. One of my favorite aspects of this flower is the slightly ruffled edges of the petals. I think that is just absolutely gorgeous. As well as you can see the way that the register description was talking about like the lighter, you know, the lighter kind of white mid-striping, and then as you go towards the edges, it becomes a darker yellow color. So if you zoom in here a little bit more, there you go. So you can see that, you know, the white sort of mid-striping with the darker yellow edging on the outside. And that is just really a beautiful, beautiful color. And you can see as the petals go backwards here, as they go back towards the backside, they are considerably more yellow and they're considerably darker than the petals towards the inside. And I think that had this kid had another row of petals, it probably would have had a row of lighter petals. One extra row of lighter petals. So we'll definitely see sort of what it looks like next year, but it's the first time that I've ever had a larger yellow hybrid that did not have very narrow spidery petals bloom. Well, I'm not so sure that I was ever really that taken with yellow epiphyllum. I get it. Because I think for a lot of people, yellow epiphyllum is like their favorite color. I definitely get it. This is absolutely gorgeous. It's very unique. It's really quite incredible. And that little ruffle on these petals, I just think is remarkable. So it's definitely a keeper in my collection. Definitely something that I would highly recommend. It's really a kind of like, oh my kind of flower. I hope you've enjoyed the Epiphyllum hybrid Chardonnay Twist as much as I have. Thank you for watching and happy cacti growing.